Hello and welcome to the progress update for Group J. We are the planet making game project, so let's get into the presentation. Core idea, what's changed? Well, the idea is very much still the same, but our priorities have changed. A lot of our feedback was focused on the importance of sound and other gamified feedback systems. So we've moved sound up to top priority, and we've actually completed already a list of the key sound effects, the core sound effects we're going to have. We haven't implemented them in the build yet, not in the build that you're going to see today, but we've also implemented the framework around them, so we're able to easily instantiate and create those sounds. VR affordances, well, it's still very much the same. Hand tracking and interactions are still at the forefront of our use of the Quest 2. You'll see a lot more interactions going on in our demo today than we had at our original pitch. Our 6 directions of freedom are really coming into play, giving the user a much more immersive experience and allowing us to create a true virtual space around the user. And finally, we're taking advantage of the portability, especially of the Quest and Quest 2. Rather than having to bring, like an easel with you or an entire Lego set, you're able to do this very creatively expressive game with just your Quest 2. You don't even need your controllers since it's all hand tracking. So those are our VR affordances so far. Technical developments, there's one very big development here since our pitch, and that is in the generation of our canvas planet. Now, we outlined this as one of our key points in our pitch, and we've made really good progress on this. Now you can see here 2 types of spheres. On the left is UV sphere, which is the sort of default sphere that you'd get in Blender and many other modeling programs. You can see it's quite polar, so you get a high concentration of vertices at the north and south pole. And what this effectively means is when you try to deform a UV sphere, you get a higher resolution at the poles and a lower resolution at the equator, which gives you a very odd result, especially if you're working with lower total vertices numbers. So the approach we've taken, there's many approaches we could have chosen, but we've chosen to go with a quad topology sphere, which you can see on the right, and you can see it has a much more even distribution of vertices. Now, our generation is handled completely at runtime, and we're actually already at the stage where we're also applying noise on top of that. And the results are really fantastic so far. You'll see that in a little bit in our demonstration video. Visual assets, visual development. We've got loads of assets already in the game, from the trees that you can see on the left to some more abstract and primitive shapes. We've got some buildings, some lovely Art Deco buildings, one that looks like the London Eye, and some more natural things as well. So those ones on the right there, the clouds, when we get a little further into development, they're actually going to be raining using some particle effects. But for the meantime, we've only got a few of them working in-game. So not all of these are currently in the current build, but they are in the game files and they have been completed. What's next? Well, there's some really key stuff coming up next. Vertex coloring is going to allow us to paint onto our planet. In the demo, you'll see that we're able to change the colors of our asset. Vertex coloring is what we're going to be using to color the planet itself, so paint on the grass or make your planet red or bright pink, but that's not in the current build. Sound effects, again, as I said, we've compiled a list of our core sound effects. They're ready to come into the project. It's just a case of getting them in and defining when they need to happen. Post-generation mesh deformation, quite a mouthful, but that goes back to our UV sphere versus quad topology, and that's basically going to be the user being able to stretch out pieces of the sphere, affect the vertices of the sphere at runtime, and that's not something we have in our current build. And then particle effects, we want to add a really good focus on those gamified feedback elements we were talking about, and we've drafted some particle effects for when you place an object, but we're also thinking about all kinds of visual effects you can have to really give the player great game feel. And finally, gesture refinements. The gesture system that we have in place is complete. However, it takes some time to really refine the readings that you get from each recording, and sometimes that means taking multiple recordings for each gesture. Sometimes it just means getting the tolerances down, but that is definitely something we want to have really well refined for our next build. That's everything on the presentation side, so now I will show you the video. Hello, and welcome to our progress update. There's a few things, quite big things, that have changed since our technical demo that came with our pitch, and so I'm just going to get right into it and show you and highlight some of the key features. Now, we've been playing around with how you can start the game. Right now we've got these 2 hand shapes, and you can see they line up. When you put your hands in them, a short little animation plays, nothing's final, and then you're immersed into the studio, as it were. Now you can see one key thing that's changed since our demo is we're no longer looking here at just a cube. We've got this lovely planet that's been generated, and I can go ahead and spin that like I could before, and you can see kind of some very basic terrain being generated. Looks quite lovely. And another thing that's changed is I'm now able to shrink and move the planet as well, which I wasn't able to do in the technical demo. You can see some colours in front of me here, and I'll get into those in a moment. But firstly, we've organised some of the assets we had before. We've made quite a few, but I've just been able to import a few of the key ones. So you see we have trees here, and then you have abstract, which are alien or abstract features. And so what are these colours for? Well, now I can take one of these assets and I can dip it into a colour, and you can see I recolour certain parts of that asset to give me a bit more personalisation. So maybe I want a planet of blue trees. There we go. Now I've got a nice blue tree sprouting out. Move it there. And so you can see right now we have just the basic colours, the primary colours, and green for the trees. And so I can dip it into yellow and blue. And we're thinking about how these colours can interact with each other. Right now they just override each other. There we go. So a red tree there, lovely. And another feature we've added now is the ocean, which you can raise and lower. There we go. Now we've got a really lovely ocean, contrasting our landmass. If you want to adjust it a little more. Perfect. Now in terms of limitations, we're not able to affect the terrain once it's already been generated, other than the ocean. We still need to fine-tune these hand gestures, but that just takes more time recording more examples. And as well, we want to attach this menu to our hands, similar to how you would have in Tilt Brush with the palette. But we've got some really lovely assets coming along. There we go. I dipped that one in the yellow and then I let go. Pop it there. And what we're looking to do as well is, as well as being able to recolor our assets, have some way to recolor the terrain so you're not stuck with just a green planet. There we go. And maybe I'll pop down building as well, just so we can see one of everything. Nice Golden Empire States building there. In fact, if I shrink the planet down, that's another thing we're going to be adding in soon, is resizing the assets. So now you can see we've got some of those buildings in, trees, and one of those abstract flowers. Okay, well this has been a very quick update on our progress so far. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to any feedback.